the title of this talk is The Vanishing of Iris, the Gamification of Becoming Blind. Maybe the title is a bit ill-chosen, because why would you gamify becoming blind? But more about that in a second. So first of all, me, Michiel van Eunen, if you pronounce it in proper Dutch, I'm an experienced designer and working with game-based learning and gamification for quite some time now. This is my team, and we create game-based learning. And this is my studio, Living Story, and we've been around for about 17 years right now. And in the time, as Pete indicated, we did a great number of games and serious games. So one of them, one of our clients called the Oogvereniging, we would call it the Eye Association, I guess, the Dutch Eye Association. They came up to us and told us about they're actually a lobby organization for everyone in the Netherlands who has an eye condition. It can be either sight loss or being partially sighted or even blind. And the numbers of people who have any type of sight loss, including everyone wearing contact lenses or glasses, are actually quite high. In Netherlands, it's over 1 million. But if we're talking about people who are actually blind or partially sighted, it's still a big number. It's in over 300,000 people in the Netherlands. I just looked up the numbers for the UK, which is 340,000, or in the US, it's 11 million people. It's quite a large part of the population who are either born blind or in the course of their lives, whether they're young or old, get an eye condition. And it can be anything from having, and I won't use the technical terms, getting spots in your eyesight or seeing blurred, or a combination of both, or cannot see anything around the fringes but just a very focal point within your eyesight. And to quite a lot of people, it surprises them somewhere during their lifetime that they have a diminished eyesight, and all of a sudden they have to cope with that, and they will learn that a large part of society is not that friendly when it comes to inclusiveness and accessibility to people who are either blind or have had a bad eye condition. So we were faced with this challenge: design a cool and unique and impactful experience that makes a broad audience aware of what it is like to live with a visual impairment. So they didn't need us to design a game for, let's say, blind people, but for everyone else, just to give them an experience of how it is to be blind or to become blind and what you come across. That was an interesting challenge, of course, for us as designers. So we thought about, well, what can we do with groups of people or with people? We can, the most obvious thing is blindfold them and just have them experience how it is to be blind. And yes, you can do this with quite small groups, but only in a controlled condition. You just cannot blindfold people and put them on a train station. That would be irresponsible, let's say. We thought of putting them in just a darkened room, in a blind room. And actually, we experienced that because we have a museum here in the Netherlands called the Museum, and it's actually a museum about blindness and people being blind. And they actually have an experience there where they lock you in a very pitch dark room, and they will walk you across situations that you come across in daily life, still in a controlled condition. Very nice experience, but you have to travel all the way to this specific museum to experience it. So we thought, if you can't use your vision, then what will you probably use most? What we got back from a lot of people who were blind to say, yeah, we of course trust a lot on our ears. So we thought maybe we can do something with hearing and audio. And one step farther, we thought, well, what can we do to impact a lot of people? We thought in the range of doing a podcast or doing an audiobook. Well, the thing with a podcast is that you're just listening to maybe a podcast host talking with their guests. And an audiobook would also be fine, but then you would have a storytelling, narrating a story for you, just listening to a story being told. And we wanted more, so we dived into history and we came across the genre of audio drama. As you can see by the picture, it was a genre that really bloomed after the Second World War. And it's actually like you're listening to a movie being played. It's played out by actors. They used all kinds of Foley's for special effects. It's quite enjoyable, a bit artificial, but very nice. And it's a shame that we don't have a lot of that right now. But it's coming back if you listen to some podcasts that tell stories in this way with actors and great sound effects. But we thought we want to do more. And we kind of thought back to our inspiration. For most of us at the studios, it's games from the 90s. And we are extremely engaged by games like this. Too bad it isn't interactive, because then I would really ask you if you would recognize this and you could shout it, it's Monkey Island, and it is Monkey Island, or this is another great example. If I shared my audio, then you should be able to hear the audio. Do you hear audio? So, to me, by the way, this is Myst. It's the best game ever, and it was. So we thought, yeah, can we make something that is a bit more game-like? And if you look at a definition of a game, a very rudimentary definition of a game is a series of meaningful decisions. You can look up all kinds of definitions of a game. But this, in essence, a game is a series of meaningful decisions. And can we put that in some sort of audio drama? Can we combine the podcast, the storytelling of the audiobook, and the game into one application? And that was what became Eyepodcast. It basically is an interactive audio adventure. And it's an adventure in a way that you are the main character and you get to make, you're like in the games from the 90s, you get to make the decision and you work your way through a specific story. A bit more about that, because we had to make an interactive audio adventure, and we just had to look if that had been done before. And we came across two things that made it quite interesting to make it interactive. First was a technical aspect, and then there was the story aspect. Let's dive into the technical. If you want to make a story interactive, then you need something like branching storylines. If you want to have meaningful decisions, then if you're at a crossroad, then you have to make a decision. Do I go left or right? Do I take the elevator up or down? Do I take the boat? Do I take the train? Do I talk to this girl, or do I walk away? And then your story would branch off and you would have a different experience than someone else playing the same game or listening to that piece of audio. So if 1,000 people would listen to this story and play through it, they would have all kinds of different experiences. We had a technical issue that we had to branch the storylines, and we had to see if that was already done by one of the platforms. So we looked into the platforms that are familiar for podcasts, and none of them had this functionality for interactiveness. So another technical issue or challenge we would like is to make the decisions voice controlled. Even though the app or the story was not initially made for people who are blind. We wanted the app to be able to use by blind people. So if you would listen to a story, and even with your eyes closed, you would be faced with a choice, and then you can use your voice control, just like you would talk to Alexa or Siri. You would just shout out the answer, give the answer, and then the app would pick it up and continue. So that was another wish we had, and that was also not provided by the current platforms. So we had to make our own app. Oh, this is an example. This is how we wanted voice control to work, and it is. So we're going to make an app for this in a technical way, and now we had to focus on the story. So what we wanted is one overarching storyline. We want it to be 6 episodes of about 30, 45 minutes. And we really wanted you, as a listener, both be the main character, just like you would in your 90s adventure game. You are the main character, and you control its movements, and you make the decisions. And it should be, of course, meaningful choices. And we wanted to have a lot of different situations. I'll get to that in a second. Of course, we wanted rich audio design. We wanted to have a great story. It should be fun and thrilling to listen to it. It should be interesting. And most interesting and most necessary was, in the experience, we had to embed all kinds of situations that would face you with becoming blind. So what it did is we really have to thank Renee and Karen for this, our playwriters. We came up with a Dan Brown-like story with a quite simple expose. You have this guy called Phil, and his aunt has gone missing. By the way, his aunt is called Iris. He has 72 hours to find her, and somehow in the first few hours there's something that happens that make him lose his eyesight, and he only faced this after a few hours, and he becomes aware of it. And gradually, during the 72 hours and over the course of your 6 podcasts, you this character, which is you become blind, and you find yourself in all kinds of situations that you would come across when you become blind. Let's say in public spaces, in transport, anywhere, in hotels, maybe in theaters, and you come across and you experience quite first-handed, because you are literally the main character, that you face the limitations and also the possibilities of what it is to become blind. And you get to make the decisions, and based on your choices, you then are thrown back into the story or progress. So one of the things we did very early on, we talked with a lot of people of the Eye Association. And we did, of course, some severe research and play testing, and for our own awareness. We got to practice with all kinds of materials and visual limitations to get a feeling of what it is to move around, to take the stairs, to listen to the space, so we could all use this in the design of the app. So from this, we wrote a complete story, complete adventure of 7 episodes. And once we wrote this, we got into the studio, and I think we used about 40 people, 40 voice actors, to make it a very rich environment. It's like I already told you, we wanted it to be like experiencing a movie, but with your eyes closed. and you're, of course, the main character. So you come across a lot of people, and that's very interesting because you're so focused on sound. Then you might notice that some obscure character that you heard in the first episode, you can hear his voice again in the third or in the sixth episode and maybe recognize him. So you get a really interesting experiences because you shift your attention from the very visual, is what we normally have because we look at our screens all day, to this very audio-rich environment. You really get to focus on audio. So I had about 40 actors. Most of them we got from the blind community. All these people you're looking at right now are either 100% blind or 90% blind, or have a very severe eye condition, and they all happily worked and had great voices, and they're all in the app and in the story right now. I'm very proud of it. So last September 13th, we launched the app, and by the way, we created some rabbit holes. I already told you we couldn't use the regular platforms like Spotify and Google and Apple because they didn't allow for interaction. But we did do is we posted some trailers, audio trailers, 1-minute trailers there that people could listen to it. And if they were interested, they could come over to and download the app. So that's what happened. We launched in September 13th. We're on our way now for about half a year. The last numbers, I think it's downloaded and played 3,800 times, the whole adventure right now. And I'll finish with 1-minute trailer. It's completely in Dutch. You wouldn't be able to understand probably unless you are Dutch. But I think it still gives a really nice impression. Now, I understand you don't have audio there. Okay, then that's too bad. Then I'll need to stop sharing. Did I stop sharing my screen? I did.
Yes, you have. You can share a link to the video, hopefully, yeah? Stick one in the chat.
Oh, I will. For now. Too bad, but you still can look at the site, which is... I'll put it in a second. Eyepodcast.nl. Can I share it here in the chat? Yes.
Should be able to.
I'll put it in private chat to you. Yes.
Done it. You send it to me, not to everyone else. That's fine. I'll stick it in the main chat.
Please do so, and check out the site, and then you can learn more about the iPodcast. Yes.
Right. I think that's an amazing talk and story and game you've come up with there. And it only just occurred to me a minute ago that the pun in the name of the Aunt Iris.
Yes.
Right. And how long have I known about this talk?
Yeah, we really love to design little quirks like that. It's a bit Pixar-like, right?
Yeah. Right, look, I assume Mikael will hang around in the chat to answer any questions. But please give him some virtual feedback and applause. And I think such a worthy project. I really like it. Yeah, Ali raises this amazing.
Just looking at the pictures, yeah. So there is the site iPodcast.nl, and you can download the app from there in both the Apple Play Store and Google, and also all the audio trailers and all your favorite podcast apps. It's still in Dutch, but I think it's still a great experience.
Yeah. And so that was our second speaker from the company Living Story today as well. They're obviously creating lots of good games. Thank you very much, Mikael.
I think I'll hang around.